everybody, and welcome to the Bruce Starr Show. I want to thank you all for being here. You know, I've been a TV and radio talk show host since 1993. I've had some incredible guests. I've had talk shows anywhere from New York, Florida, California, even out of the country, in a tropical island in the Western Caribbean. So it's been a great and interesting career. Met some fascinating people, interviewed presidents of countries, congressmen, mayors, and lots of athletes and celebrities. So it's been wonderful. And today I'm going to have on a very, very interesting guest, someone who has just impressed me so much. Her name is Omie Spirit. And Omie is, you know what? I don't even know if I can describe her. So rather than having me describe her, I'm going to have her introduce herself and basically share with us the work that she does and how she got started doing this and where she gets her talents from. So Omie, thank you so much for being on the show and welcome to the Bruce Starr Show.
Thank you for having me. Well, to start with to answer your question right away, I started doing this at a young age. I just didn't know I was doing it. For the longest time, I thought everyone was like me and everyone knew what I knew. Everyone knew how to do what I knew how to do, and everyone saw what I saw or felt what I felt. I just didn't see myself as different. And then one day someone came up to me and says, no, you're different. And nope, I don't feel that way. And we compared notes and it just wasn't the same. I didn't start actually stepping into the business until I ran into another psychic who, she told me that this is what was my life purpose was. I needed to get into it. And I just disagreed with her at the time. And then she sat me down with a complete stranger. And I did a reading for her and I was scared. I'm not gonna lie here. I was so scared. I started making things up like a storybook. The next thing you know, the woman's in tears. She said, "You read me so well, thank you." And then she walks away. And then the psychic approached me. She says, "You see, you were able to tap into her life story and read her and give her what she was looking for and help ease her. You know how much of a burden you lifted from her?" And one of the beauties about seeing a psychic or seeing someone like me is that it really opens up your horizons and it really opens up your, oh, I can do this thinking process. And it allows you to see where your blocks are. I'm known for being an oracle, an interdimensional psychic, a tarot reader, an oracle reader. And when I say I'm an oracle, that means that I have images come to me and I translate the images, just kind of like an oracle deck, but it's happening in here. I'm also claircognizant, so that means I have inner knowing. I don't know before you ask the question. So a lot of the times when I do the work that I do, you have to ask a question, because if you leave it up to spirit, and I put quotation marks around that, is because there's so many, you never know what kind of message you're going to get. And it could be something so far off the beaten path, you'll think I'm the one who's not accurate.
That's really excellent. And you explained that beautifully. And we've already worked together, and I was so impressed that what I wanted to do is I wanted to invite someone from our audience to work with you, if you don't mind. Would that be okay?
Of course, I would love to.
Okay, great. So her name is Elena. She'll be on camera in a second. And she has come with, 2 or 3 questions, and let's see how far you get and how much detail you get. So I'm going to hand the show over to you, and I'm going to hand it over to Elena, and I'll have Elena ask her question of you.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Hello, Elena.
So I'm going to start with a general question. Just what is my life lesson for the next 7-year period in my life?
Okay. So what Spirit is doing with you right now is you get in your own way a lot. So your life lesson is right now for the next, you said 7 years, and it's interesting you said 7 because it's already started. It's
Yes.
2 years ago it started. 2 years ago you started recognizing that you get in your own way. And what does this mean? This is very common amongst human beings. We tend to go down rabbit holes in our mind. We start a thought and we go down the rabbit hole, and the next thing you know, we're on a completely different thought than where we were when we first started. And for your case, it's the reason why this is special and unique to you is because you're self-sabotaging in this way and you are aware of it. So your goal right now, what your lesson is to do, is to learn to get out of your own head and to sort of live in the moment and stop letting thoughts attack your mind, because these thoughts are not only debilitating, they're creating anxiety for you. I'm seeing you getting anxious and anxiety, and I'm seeing you having moments of panic. So this is where it's all coming from, because it's time for you to stop overthinking.
Okay. Are there tools you suggest? I do Wim Hof breathing every morning.
Yes, there are good tools. A lot of people would run to meditation for this, but you know what? I think that makes it harder. The truth is, meditation helps if you know the difference between the voice, there is the chatter in your head, and then there's the presence of something else. And that presence of something else is the presence of not a higher, you could call it a higher power, but okay, this knows what they're talking about. There's something smarter, something beyond us.
Yes, I
So
just hear the chatter.
the viewer of the chatter. So if you give credit to the viewer of the chatter, you'll start to recognize the chatter starts to dissipate. Another thing you can do, and that's for meditation, and I don't usually recommend meditation unless you know how to do that. If you don't know how to do that, because there is a lot of people who don't know how to do meditation. If you don't know how to do meditation, when you wash the dishes, you think of nothing else. When you do the laundry, you think of nothing else.
Okay.
Say you're going to do cleaning around the house, you think of nothing else. When you're washing that spoon and fork, you're looking at that spoon and fork, and you're washing that spoon and fork. Nothing else creeps into your mind. With these little tricks and tactics, you'll eventually get yourself to a point where you'll start recognizing when you're in public, talking to somebody else, all of a sudden you see your brain's about to jump from one topic to the next. Then you're going to go, oh, wait a minute. I'm doing it again. Take a breath, and then you're back into your topic.
Okay, that's fair enough. My next question is, my husband is having a hard time with his career path, and it's making our relationship a little bit challenging. How can I support the situation? How can I respond differently so that there's a little bit more harmony in our relationship?
He's doing it because he wants to make you happy. And when I look at him and I see him, I'm seeing him being he's very goal oriented. His love for you is first and foremost. So your reaction would have to come from a place of love, because ultimately, when he sees he's failing, he sees he's failing you. And he doesn't like that feeling. And I'm going to tell you something right now. He loves you more than life itself. This man loves you. So you may not feel it at times because he is in his own disarray. I'm doing cards, and then I'm letting spirit talk at the same time. I'm doing all of it. Okay. I'm not just doing one thing over here.
All right,
when I looked down and closed my eyes, I was checking it. I was remote viewing her husband.
Oh, wow.
I can't see his face, but I can see his energy.
I can show you a picture if it'll help.
It does, but I see his energy very clearly. He's not a soft-spoken man. No. He's got a loud energy. I see him. So you need to know that your husband really does love you. And at times when he gets angry and he gets disappointed with himself, he feels like a failure to you. He doesn't want to be. So don't be discouraged by him, because he's very loyal to you. He's loyal. And what you can do to help him is just to take in those breaths and really start to show that nurturing nature that us women have, and he needs it in the sense of emotions. You know, honey, I love you no matter what. No matter what happens, I love you. I just want you to know I support you. I know you feel like you're failing at times, and it's okay. Everything happens for a reason, and I support every minute and every failure and every success that you do. Because his ultimate goal is to make you happy. I understand it doesn't seem like it in the moment, because let's be honest, when anger is in the room, when sadness is in the room, when distortion is in the room, when confusion is in the room, it's very hard to feel love because they're not in agreement or alignment with love. But he loves you. And don't let this break you two apart, because it's not worth it.
Okay. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So I just need to encourage him more. I've just been trying to give him space because he sometimes, takes out his frustration a little bit.
Yeah, he
Short,
can,
you know.
but he doesn't know how to express his emotions.
Yes.
He has a hard time expressing himself emotionally.
Okay.
You know, I mean, sometimes when he gets angry, it's because he's sad. Sometimes when he gets frustrated, it's because he's confused. He's still, this is not just him, this is society. The way society has raised all of us, we cannot decipher our own emotions correctly.
Yes.
So the last thing you want to do is fall into the belief that he doesn't love you, or that he just doesn't care about you anymore because he's expressing agitation. That's not what he's expressing. He's not expressing a lack of love.
That's helpful.
He's trying really hard to be successful.
What is the right path for him?
It's interesting because when I look to see what path is the right one for him, it's like they're not showing me. And the reason why they're not showing me is because his ego's getting in the way. And I don't know if you know anything about tarot, but it's one of the tools I use. In tarot, we have a card called the Sun.
Okay.
And the Sun not only represents success, but it also represents the ego. So when it's right side up, it's success. And when it's upside down, it's the ego. So for you, we have it upside down.
For my husband, you mean?
For your husband, yes, for your husband. And then we have another card, which is one of my favorite cards when it's right side up, but it's called the Star. And it's the star because it's, I wish upon a shooting star, and then your wish will come true.
Okay.
But he's got it as well, upside down. What does this mean? This means that he doesn't believe he can follow his dreams. This means that whatever his dreams are, that is what he is supposed to be pursuing. But for some reason, maybe it's all of this distortion, maybe it's all of the struggles and the blocks that he's hitting, he doesn't believe in himself enough to follow his dreams. So it's interesting because the other day I heard a term from a friend of mine that really stuck with me, which was, I had to allow myself permission to do something. So this is the same case for him. He has to allow himself permission to do something. He's not allowing himself permission to pursue this dream. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can see how he gets in his own way. Is there anything else other than what you've already told me? Is there anything else I can do to support him or encourage him?
You really need to, when he has his moments, his emotional moments, be supportive.
Okay.
You need to be supportive. It's not about you. The minute you're like, why is he doing this to me? Why is he talking to me this way? Why is he's me? The minute you go to me, how can you be there for someone else if you're hurting? He's hurting. And when people hurt, all they can do is share the hurt. So what you need to do is recognize you're not hurting. You are a support system, and you need to sit there and just it's be present and allow him to be present. And because you love him, you are present. And then when he sees that you're not fighting back, he will come at you with a different attitude over time. Might not happen right away because it'll take a minute for him to recognize, wait a minute, she's not reacting like she normally does. Well, because now you're aware. Now you know it's not you, it's him. So let him burn it out, fuse it out, and you will see how that not only improves your marriage, it'll improve your relationship, and it'll help him come down to his senses. It'll help him burn off the steam because he's got a lot of pent-up steam inside of him.
He does. He's very frustrated, and he tells me just about every day he's trying to work on a business that's not taking off the way he would like it to, and I'm not even sure if it's the right path for him. So he looks to me for comfort, but he doesn't always take my guidance, so I mostly just listen.
Yes, you need to hold space for him. You ever heard the term holding space? That's what you need to do for him. You giving him advice will not help unless he asks for it. And even if he asks for it, do not expect him to follow it.
He doesn't.
Because it's an ego thing. Remember the sun being upside down. And the ego's not a bad thing. The ego's how we survive in this world.
Right.
So it's his ego saying, I want to figure this out. So that's part of his purpose, to figure it out. That's part of his lesson in life, to figure it out. And it's almost like you doing his homework for him when you give him the answers. No, let me double check. No, I want to figure it out. You guys may get the same response, the same answer, but he wants to do it.
Omie, the way you help me, and I'm not saying that you do this with him right now. Let me start that again. One of the ways that you are absolutely fantastic is if someone comes to you and says, look, I have this choice to make, that choice to make. Can you look at these 4 choices and see which one might work out? So what I'm going to suggest to Elena and Jeremy is, instead of saying, what do I do? And hold your hands up and say, what do I do? Come up with 2 or 3 or 4 ideas that you would really like to do. Give yourself permission to do those things if it's the right thing for you. And then go to you and say, what do you think of this idea? What do you think of that idea? What do you think of this idea? And that's the best way to take advantage of your skills.
Yes, I agree. That's one of the best ways to take advantage of my skills as a reader, because of the interdimensional aspect that I have. And when I say interdimensional, that means I can see forks in the road. When I see forks in the road, that means I see you walking and I see you splitting off into all of these other realities, and I can see it happening simultaneously. So if you ask me a question along the lines of, okay, so these are my choices, which one best benefits me? I can look into those choices and tell you which one is going to be from your ego, your spirit, your soul's journey, distraction, and which one's going to help you grow more, and which one is more probable than not.
So the business that he's in, is that the right fit for him? Does he need to go in a different direction?
Okay, so does he have any other ideas of where he wants to go other than this business?
He has another idea outside of what he's pursuing, which I think would be a better fit for him, but he sees it as more of a hobby and doesn't see it as what's going to make him successful the way he imagines. But the business he's working on right now, he's been at it for almost 2 years and has had very little success. He hasn't really recouped his initial investments. And he tells me every day that he's unhappy. If you were to watch him, it looks like he's working. You know, he is making an effort every day. But most days he feels defeated.
Okay, so when I look down the path, I'm going to look at it as the business that he's in versus the hobby.
Mm-hmm.
I can look into both. The problem I'm having is they're the same path
Okay.
because of the hobby. Does that make sense? If
Yeah.
I were to try to, because I'm looking right now, because I can do that in here.
Mm-hmm.
When I look at the path, I see them together. I don't see them separate. I see the hobby with the business.
Okay,
So whatever the hobby is, I'm not seeing it separate from the business. I'm seeing it together. So either he's not doing it together or he thinks it's separate. I see it needing to be together. What I do when there's a lot of forks, I use my tarot cards to really hone in on the direction. But I'm not seeing any directions with this. And I don't know if it's the way the question was posed. It is the fact that I see the business and then I see the hobby, but I see them literally like right back to back.
growing.
One's facing this way, one's facing that way. It's going this way. So in order for his business to be successful, he needs to have a hobby. He needs to pursue his hobby. Because if he doesn't pursue his hobby, then his business will fall. And here's why. Because he gets tired, he gets bored, he gets anxious,
Mm-hmm.
he overworks, and then he loses hope. And then the hobby, you said the hobby brings in income. I'm seeing the hobby having the potential to bring in de-stress. So if the hobby brings in income, then you can take that income from the hobby, flip it on both. Does this make sense to you?
Right. I when he first wanted, he worked in corporate jobs for many years on and off, and he was always unhappy. And the last corporate job he had, before he was let go from it, he worked very hard to try to figure out some way of being his own boss and generating his own income. And so he found this business and he invested in it, and he's been at it for
Okay, so I don't mean to cut you off. I don't want to get too much information, but what I do need to know is the business that he's doing corporate style? Is he trying to replicate the corporate style?
I'm not really sure. It's more of like sales, I guess, to people. It's like a cost saving business for people that I guess are in corporate. So I guess there's still some corporate work involved.
So I'm seeing a juggle here because I just pulled some cards because I want to get some clarity on this. I pulled cards and he's lost love for this business that he's currently doing.
Yes, he's lost love. Yeah.
Okay. Anytime you lose love for anything, you know what they say about teachers who fall out of love with teaching? It's time to retire.
Change your career.
So, yep, he feels like he lost his status. Okay. He feels like his status has been gone. I'm showing you the page because this is where I got that message. He feels like his status is gone. And then this is what throws me off about, this is why I said I see the hobby being with it, because I see him juggling between the two.
Okay.
You see, the tarot deck just said exactly what I saw.
Yeah.
So he's juggling between the two, and that's the reason why they're like this. But remember, they're not facing each other.
No. It's not complementary.
Yeah. So he should.
Correct. They're not complementary. Thank you for that word. They're not complementary. So unless he could find a way to marry the two businesses, I don't see him being very happy with the one that he's currently doing.
Okay.
but I'm sorry to say this, but I feel very strongly that it can't be you who tells him to quit.
No, I agree. I when he took on
You
this business, I couldn't be the one to tell. He asked, and please edit this out.
you need to let him
He
you
needs to.
need to let him figure it out on his own. This card, I think, is self-explanatory.
Yes, I actually.
You need to let him sit with it. You need to let him dream on it. He needs these restless moments. He needs these moments where he's upset and he gets upset. This is why you need to be the loving wife and just let him be and just support him with your presence and know that he will figure it out. Just know, have an inner knowing, he'll figure it out. And because you love him, you're there and you're letting him spew, scream, whatever it is that he needs to do to let this energy out. Why? Because it's better out than in. Energy that's held within the body becomes dis-ease. Any type of dis-ease becomes dis-ease if it's held within the body.
So, Omie, speaking of disease, actually, I know that Elena has one more question that she'd like to ask, and it's more of a health question. How do you feel about taking one more question?
Okay, I can take one more question. I do have to say, though, anything with health, you know, always consult your doctor. I am not a doctor, and everything I see and say is based off of images that spirit gives me, and sometimes it has happened. They can be misconstrued. So always check with a doctor, and you always want to double check things. You don't ever want to just go with one thing. It's like a doctor. You don't want to go to one doctor, you want to go to several.
I understand. I just was going to ask for a general health reading, and I do have a diagnostic test coming up at the end of
Okay, so if we were to do a general health reading, remember what I said earlier about spirits? You'll have 10,000 spirits coming in here trying to tell you everything. Because let me tell you something about the general population. We're all sick. Every one of us, every human being in this world is sick. It's the difference between one human being and another is which one's showing symptoms and which one's not showing symptoms.
Well, Omie, this was really fantastic. I happen to know the person that Elaine is asking about, and it was extremely accurate, and I think you do great work, and a lot more people really need to know about the work that you're doing. So I want to thank you so much for being on the show, and I know that you and I will be doing some wonderful things professionally here together. I'm looking forward to it. And I got to tell you that having somebody like you, I feel, on my team, it gives me so much more confidence than I ever had before, knowing that I can come to you as a partner, as an associate, and say, what about this? And what about that? What if I do this? What about, and you'll be able to say to me, this looks good, this doesn't look good, this looks good. And that has been, in the work that we've done already has been incredibly helpful. So I want to thank you for coming into our lives here, and I appreciate the work that you're doing. I want to thank Elena for being on the show with us today. And everybody, have a great day, and we'll see you again real soon. Bye-bye.